Trigger warning. I'm going to be sharing a personal story on a sexual assault I experienced that oddly enough led to writing my book, How to Write a Grant, Become a Grant Writing Unicorn. If that is going to trigger you, please feel free to skip this one. There's a ton of other YouTube videos for you. Otherwise, prepare to hear a story I have definitely never shared publicly. So obviously, this is a video about my book. So if you don't have a copy yet, treat yourself. I also just released the book as an audiobook if listening is more your jam. If you know my family, probably would expect me to write a book. My mom is a historian and author, but the truth is, it never occurred to me to write a book. It was introduced to me as something I should do when I was at the Kajabi Impact Summit in 2019. I had no idea how you teach grant writing online. And after a full year of doing everything I could think of to sell my first course, and I'd only made $2,000, I pinched my pennies, I bet on myself, and I went to that event hoping it would unlock my growth, because we learn from those who have been where we want to go. You know that that's a mantra that's important to me. Now at the conference, I met an individual who calls himself the Tony Robbins of Mexico. He handed me a copy of his motivational book. It was in Spanish, but he encouraged me to write one. And he made a compelling case for authorship. He said it introduces others to your work affordably, it establishes you as an authority in your niche, it's tangible, etc. So we built rapport over the next few days, and at the end of the event, he offered to teach me how to write my book. I live in Alaska, and so I knew there would not be a better opportunity than now. I delayed my flight one day so I could learn from this master of book writing. The next day, I arrive at the hotel because I was too broke to stay at the hotel and I was renting someone's Airbnb room. Hey, bootstrap. And I called him to meet in the lobby. And he said, come up to my room and we can work from there instead. And I didn't think anything of it. Now, for the next several hours, I took notes until my hand was cramping and I learned the exact methodology to write a book in just a few days. And then he suggested we take a break and dance. And I was uncomfortable as hell. Okay, reading this allows you to have some easy armchair judgment, but in the moment, I didn't feel like I could say no as I was being swept out of my chair. This was not like a shake it out, boogie to keep your energy levels up. It was intensely sexual and inappropriate. It would have been beautiful dancing had it been consensual, but it was not. He was feeling me up, he was forcing me to place my lips a millimeter from his, like grinding my body, telling me that he's never felt a connection like this before, and then sitting on the bed, forcing me onto him, and I was absolutely dying. I felt like a frog boiling in water. I needed out of that room, but I also didn't feel like I could safely grab all my things and make it to the door if he wanted to block me, because he certainly was strong. So I insisted on a water break and I texted a friend and I said, call me in 5 minutes and ask me if I was coming to the meeting. So on cue, the phone rings and I was able to say, oh my gosh, I forgot this important meeting. I gotta run. And I ran out of that hotel room. I was crying. My heart was racing. I was horrified. I ran out of the room, hopped into a cab that my friend had called for me, and away I went. And I don't know why I did this exactly, but once I was safe at a separate location, I made a video that you can actually still find on my Facebook page, and I'll probably link it up below if I'm not getting weirdo internet trolls. If I do, then I'll remove the link, but it was really kind of like the rawness of that moment. Okay. Right out of college, I'd been harassed by this man at events we would both attend. And it got so stressful for me that I would scan the room to see if he was there, and I just decided to stop participating. And what you need to know about me is, big surprise, I'm not meek. I've got a strong personality, I can totally hang out in male-dominated industries, no problem. But the subtle and constant commentary and advances wore me down to the point of giving up. And so if I was giving up before I really even got started, I was young 20s, no wonder we don't see women in equal positions of leadership. Those advances, subtle as they might be, they gnaw on you and wear you down. And add in the comments if you know this is true. I know there's women watching this who have experienced this. But reflecting on how I had stepped back from professional involvement because of that guy, I decided I'm not going to withdraw this time. Within 2 weeks of getting back to Alaska, I went to this secluded cabin in the woods, no internet, no running water, and I wrote the book. I was up until the wee hours of the morning. I would review the notes I had taken and burn them in the fireplace. It was therapeutic. Now, just as I was taught by Turdbag, I wrote the first 10 chapters on questions I'm frequently asked, and the next 10 chapters were on questions I wish you would ask. Now, I outlined every chapter, and then I made an audio recording. And I had that audio recording transcribed, and that served as the bones for writing the first draft. I'd write until 2 or 3 in the morning next to a wood-fired stove. I danced on repeat to Lil Nas, that Old Town Road. You know what I'm talking about. Okay, so I then walked to this little cafe. It wasn't open, but I could still get their Wi-Fi and I could send out chapters of my book to volunteers that were helping me with the preliminary edit. So all in, I wrote that first book in 5 days. For the second book, I took a similar approach and I wrote it in 7 days in Sitka, Alaska. If you're wondering, that's actually where the grant writing unicorn name came to be. I wanted to name the book How to Write a Grant, a Practical Guide. But my boyfriend at the time suggested, how about become a grant writing unicorn? And I wanted you to take me seriously, so I figured there's no way, but I polled my community that title and big surprise, it won by a landslide. I got the book published in September of 2019 and ended up overhauling my course, offering it for $1 to anyone that would leave a review. Don't you wish you knew me then? So 2 years later, I was feeling really self-conscious that I hadn't written a good book. It wasn't my best work. And I know this because I needed to publish that first edition quickly before I lost the momentum because of all of the emotional baggage that was tied up in it. It was about me kind of giving the finger to this dinglebat, and you know what I'm talking about, that it was just something I needed to do but not get so emotionally sunk into that I never got the project done. For that reason, I decided to go write a second edition. So I flew to Sitka for a week of writing this book and doing nothing else. And the first thing I did was reread the first edition and realize, wait, it's not even that bad. But heck, I was already in Sitka, so I wrote the second edition and it did turn out way better. I love it. Then 2 years later, in 2023, I finally got around to publishing an Audible version of that book. And of course, by now, AI has entered the landscape. So it's really cool. 2019, 2020, and then 2023 were like distinctive moments in that book's history. If you have a copy of my book and you haven't left a review, please, please, please go do it. You can't believe how much it helps. If you're wondering whatever came of Dinglebat, nothing. And that bothers me. I was asked to write an article actually for Business Insider when the Me Too movement was in full swing, but they didn't end up publishing the series. And truthfully, I was afraid to be very public about it or name him, even though I sure as heck don't want it happening to anyone else. But because I did perceive him to have considerable power, that frightened me. And the investigator I worked with in Irvine when I reported what happened said because it was behind closed doors, there's really nothing to stand on. It's just sort of a he said, she said situation. I also felt like Kajabi, that's the course platform I used, was more concerned with protecting their reputation than addressing my concern that Dinglebat was blocked from all future events. Which, side note, is one of the reasons we're thrilled to have moved our entire course and community to Circle, which is a bazillion times better. And if you're a member of the collective listening to this, can I get an amen in the comments? We love Circle. I want you to know that I am emotionally totally okay from this experience. I transmuted big feelings by writing the first edition of that book, and I am so grateful for it as an artifact of what it means to not let roadblocks deter you or stop you. So the big 3 takeaways that I want for you to take from this video is this. 1, the ultimate flex is showing up. Especially if you're a woman, a person of color, or any other marginalized identity, your biggest flex is showing up. I'm an example of the wild places it can take you. 2, we all start somewhere. I know we look fancy now. We've got edited YouTube videos and a full team and all the things, but remember, it was only a few years ago that I was a one-woman show putting in the reps for a better life. 3, leave a review. Sorry, I had to plug it in there. It helps so much. Please go get yourself a copy. Treat yourself to a hardcover. If you don't, they look nicer, and leave an honest review. And that is a wrap. Check out the next video we have teed up for you. Hit the like and subscribe button for a weekly video drop from Team LGW. That's it. Bye.